Hello, sociology students. Tree Hall here with another essay video. So, purpose of this video is to kind of give you the tools you need to do the Unit 4 writing project. It seems like it's one essay, but in fact it's another. So this can be a tricky little essay. So I want you to pay close attention to this. I promise that in watching this video, you will walk away with a solid plan of attack for writing your essay. And you can take notes of this, but you can also take a look at the slideshow at any time and use that for notes as well. I've got the link inside the teacher note here. So let's go ahead and go through this, and let's get you all set to do the essay. So here's our essay topic. Very long. It was so long I had to put it on 2 slides. And by the way, that tells you that this could be a complicated topic. Research suggests that participation in sports reflects geographic and economic factors. Think of a sport that doesn't require lots of equipment or special clothing to play. One such sport is basketball. All a player needs is a ball and somewhere to shoot. In this project, you will research several major sports: football, basketball, hockey, skiing, tennis, and golf. Your goal is to discover where and by whom these sports are typically played. Also, find out what is the cost for someone who is not a professional to play these 6 sports. In your research, you can contact coaches, players, and parents of players to find out the costs for each sport by calling or visiting a high school athletics department, and or you may conduct your research online. Now, a couple little things here. So I just want to point something out here. Economic factors, lots of equipment or special clothing, the costs. Now, do you notice how often economics and costs are repeated here? This is important because at first this seems like this is an essay about sports, but in reality it's about the geographic and economic factors behind sports. I'm going to underline that too. So just something I want you to consider, because again, this is not super straightforward. Remember, you're in a sociology class. And so that means when you're in a sociology class that it becomes important or what is important in a sociology class is geographic and economic factors. We're talking about human beings. You know, when you think of sports, you just kind of think, oh yeah, anybody who wants to play a sport can. But wait a minute. Some sports cost more than others. As is pointed out here, all you need for a basketball is a basketball. You know, to play basketball, you just need to get a basketball and find a hoop somewhere. But what if you wanted to play football? It's not so simple. You're going to need a helmet, you're going to need pads, you're going to need all kinds of things, and you can't just play football by yourself, so you're going to have to join a team, and oh, that costs money. And do you see how this works? Some sports are harder to play than others, and actually, when you really think about it, sports, except for a couple sports, especially basketball, are pretty much a middle class thing. And lower class people are excluded from that. And I think that that's what they're trying to get to in that. Let's continue with the topic itself. So let me move to the next slide. Oh, whoops. I have to do that. Okay, write a 5-paragraph report on your research that includes details on each of these 6 sports. You need to discuss where each sport is usually played, who the typical player is, and how much it costs to play the sport. Include a list of expenses that are normal if one wants to play the sport. Again, I'll be sure to cite each source. Again, I want you to think, you know, at first glance, this appears to be a very straightforward essay. You're going to describe 6 sports. You're going to discuss where they are, who plays them, and how much it costs. But there's something underneath the surface, and that is that some sports are more expensive than others, and that can limit who plays those sports. So I just want you to think about that as you put together your essay. Now, as with any essay, the first step towards writing the essay is to turn the topic into a question with a question mark. So again, research suggests that participation in sports reflects geographic and economic factors. You know, that's the other thing. Certain countries have more people that play sports than others. And guess which countries don't have too many people playing sports? You guessed it, the poorer countries. Think of a sport that doesn't require a lot of equipment or special clothing to play. One such sport is basketball. All a player needs is a ball and somewhere to shoot, blah, blah, blah. Now, when you look at the topic, It's important to turn the topic into a question with a question mark for two reasons. Number one, clarifies what you're going to be writing about. Number two, your answer to that question is the one sentence that your entire essay revolves around as your thesis statement. So there's two different ways to look at this. What are you being asked to write about? And again, it is always helpful to turn that into a question with a question mark. Sometimes it's already written that way and sometimes it isn't. Well, there are two ways to look at this. Where and by whom are these sports played and what is the cost? So that is what you're writing about. That's what you're answering. Or to turn this more into a sociology type paper, the other thing that you need to think about is what geographic and economic factors are involved in sports. And that is what you're really writing about. Yeah, you're going to be talking about sports and who plays them and where and what the cost is. But as you're doing that, you're going to be describing the geographic and economic factors that are involved in sports and how some sports are limited to people who have money and some sports are not. Let's move to the next step. Once you've changed your topic into a question with a question mark, your next step is to organize your essay. In this project, you will research several major sports. Always when you see a list in an essay topic, you want to count. Football, basketball, hockey, skiing, tennis, and golf. Now, if you count, that's 6 sports. Now, all essays are, an essay is a stylized piece of writing, which means that you have to follow the rules. If you're writing a haiku, you have to have so many syllables in the first line and so many in the second, so many in the third. When you're writing an essay, you have to have an intro that tells your reader what you're going to tell them. You have to have a body that tells them and a conclusion that tells them what you told them. Typically in an essay, 60 to 75% of the total length of the essay is the body because that's where the majority of the facts are. And so if you're told, like you are in this, that you're going to be writing a 5-paragraph essay, you already know the body's going to be the bulk of the essay. In a 5-paragraph essay, you always know that you're going to have 1 paragraph dedicated to the intro, 1 dedicated to conclusion. So if you do some simple math here, 5 minus 2, you have 3 body paragraphs. Now, if there are 6 items in this list and you need 3 body paragraphs, what is the easiest way to organize this? 6 and 3. Oh, what if I put 2 sports in each body paragraph? And then if I do, take a look at the way it's set up. Football/basketball, hockey/skiing, tennis/golf. A perfect way to organize this because those, if you group these groups in 2 like this, those sports kind of go together. So that's a really easy way to organize your essay. You're given your body paragraphs. Now, if you can sit down and organize your essay, it is going to save you so much time. Let's move to the next step because in organizing your essay, you make something I call an essay map. Now, don't forget that your entire essay, you're answering this question: what geographic and economic factors are involved in sports? And then what you're going to do is in your intro, you're going to introduce the topic, you're going to address the topic question through your thesis statement, and then you're going to transition to your first body paragraph or main point 1. You're going to talk about the, let me get a pen again, the geographic and economic factors involved in football and basketball. When you get to your second body paragraph, you're going to talk about the geographic and economic factors involved in hockey and skiing. When you get to your third body paragraph, you're going to talk about the geographic and economic factors involved in golf and tennis. And again, geographic, where? Economic, how much does it cost? This is the same thing as answering who plays these, where are they played, how much does it cost? Obviously, you can't go skiing if you don't live near a mountain that has snow on it. And skiing can be an expensive sport because you got to pay for lift tickets, your stuff, you got to buy your jacket. I mean, different sports have different startup costs, and you're going to see that as you research that, and that is meant to happen. That's why they're assigning you this topic. After you do these 3 things, you're going to come up with a conclusion, and there's your essay. Now, again, this is good because it gives you a very straight way forward. So take a moment, internalize this map. If you write down anything from this, this is what you want to write. The essay map. Write that down and move on. Okay. Move to the next slide. Okay, so once you've made an essay map, now you're pretty much ready to start your essay. Don't forget that your introduction has to do 2 things. One, it has to introduce your readers to your topic. You can start by discussing participation in sports. Then you can make a general statement about who are playing sports and where. Keep in mind that a good intro paragraph is about 5 to 6 sentences. So that introduction is usually more than one sentence, because the end of your intro paragraph is you coming up with a thesis statement that answers the topic question. So at the end, you're going to do 4 or 5 sentences where you're going to discuss participation in sports. Then you're going to talk about where this is happening and who are playing sports generally. And you can either talk about countries or you can talk about the city versus country. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go here. And then what you want to get to is you want to answer your question: what geographic and economic factors are involved in sports? Now, when you do sit down to make that thesis statement, this is something that's important. If someone asks you the question, what geographic and economic factors are involved in sports, and your answer is donkeys live a long time, no one's ever seen a dead donkey, something went wrong. That doesn't answer that question. Your thesis statement should contain words from the topic question. So, a good thesis statement is going to say the geographic and economic factors involved in sports, such as football, basketball, skiing, hockey, tennis, golf, are, and then you're going to suggest some things. So, you should see some of those words in your thesis statement. That's how you know you have a good thesis statement. Again, 5, 6 sentences. Another way to look at what goes into your introduction is you need to give your reader enough information to understand your statement. Somebody off the street, geographic and economic factors, what on earth are you talking about? That's where you want to start by discussing participation in sports. Then you might say, but you know what? Not everybody plays sports because some sports are a little too expensive for some people. And generally, what you find is blah, 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 blah. And then you list that. So it's what your reader needs in order to understand that thesis statement. Now, you write the intro, go ahead and do the body, and when you come back to the end of the essay, you go back, you take a look at your intro, and don't forget your conclusion is simply a restatement of your intro. It's not an exact copy because now your readers have read the entire essay. Remember, in your intro, you tell them what you're going to tell them, and then in the conclusion, you remind them of what you told them. So you remind your readers about the topic, and then you restate the thesis statement. And sometimes you put a little bit of info from the body paragraphs, but something that's important. You don't put a lot of information in a conclusion. If your intro is 5 to 6 sentences, your conclusion is 3 to 4 sentences. It's shorter than the intro. If you're putting a lot of information in your conclusion, it means that you've just added a body paragraph to your essay and you probably forget to write the conclusion after that. So that's important to understand. Now let's move into body paragraphs. Now, remember, each body paragraph must answer the topic question and must be 6 to 8 sentences long. So remember, our topic question are what geographic and economic factors are involved in sports? And in each body paragraph, you're going to have to answer that question for the 2 specific sports that you're talking about. So in your first body paragraph, oh, look at that, no space there. In your first body paragraph, you're going to talk about football and basketball, and you're going to talk about the geographic and economic factors involved in that. In your second body paragraph, you're going to talk about skiing and hockey. You're going to and by the way, skiing, you can go ahead and throw snowboarding in there. That's why I showed that picture there. To me, that's what skiing means. So you want to talk about that in those two. And in your last one, you want to cover tennis and golf. So you've got that. The other thing that you have to do, you've got to do 2 things in each body paragraph. So one way to look at your body paragraph is it's a 6 to 8 sentence answer to that question, only it's sports specific. The other way to look at a body paragraph is each of your body paragraphs must do 2 things. One, they must describe the 2 specific sports you are covering in the paragraph, and then 2, you need to identify the geographic and economic factors, costs, and location. So this is important. As you're looking through there, you have to make sure that you do this. Did I describe how much that it costs? Did I talk about typically who plays that? Because that's the other, geographic and economic. There's a special term in sociology, social economic or socioeconomic status. That is the location and class and economic worth of a person, all combined into one. And of course, you're not going to typically see like kids from the ghetto up there on the slopes skiing and snowboarding away, because that's an expensive sport. So it kind of keeps them out of there. But you might see some poor kid playing basketball, and you need to emphasize that in your essay. And so you need to make sure that you get through this cost and location. Now, remember, part of this is going to be pure information. That's the stuff that you're getting on how much it costs and all this. But you do want to start speculating about who gets to play this and who doesn't. And that just comes out of your brain when you're looking at this cost. If a basketball costs $7 at Walmart, then you could say, well, basketball is a pretty open sport because anybody can play, because anybody can go down to Walmart and pay for a $7 basketball, or maybe you can find it at a thrift store for even cheaper. But then again, if a lift ticket to go snowboarding costs $75 just for one ticket for one day, yeah, that's a little harder to do. So you want to remember as you do this that this is not an essay just about sports. It's about geographic economic factors involved in participation in sports. One of the things that you discover when you study sociology is that people of the lower economic strata exercise less than people of the higher economic strata, just because they may not be able to afford a gym membership. They may not be able to afford all this fancy equipment and that's what you're trying to bring out a little bit in this essay. Another thing before we move on to the final slide, remember that it has to be 6 to 8 sentences long. I do mark you down when one body paragraph is like strangely shorter by 4 sentences than all the others. You do have to make sure that they're all about the same, which means that if something winds up short, find some more information or speculate on that more. You can control either one. Let's get to the final slide, because at this point you are ready. So at this point, I'm hoping that after watching this, you have a solid plan of attack, and it's kind of pictured up here. You're going to have your intro paragraph. You're going to have your first body paragraph, or main point 1 is going to describe football and basketball. Your second main point is going to describe hockey and skiing. Your third is going to describe tennis and golf. This gives us a nice 5-paragraph essay. And don't forget that in all of the paragraphs, the intro, each of the main points, and the conclusion, all of the paragraphs are going to be answering our question here. What are the geographic and economic factors involved in sports? You need to discuss that throughout this. Don't forget also that your essay must address the topic question. It must be 5 paragraphs long and must be 600 or more words. Now, if you need any more help than this, I am happy to help you, and you can find my phone number, my email address. Happy to give you a little more help, but I hope that this short video will give you a solid plan of attack, and I'm really hoping that after watching this you say, yep, I think I can do this. Not hard to find this information at all, and now you have a great structure to put this through, and if you follow my directions, you'll have a solid 5-paragraph essay. Thanks for watching, and again, let me know if you need more help.